Adam Taxin continuing here in the city of New Orleans. I'm uptown right now by the Tulane campus with Rabbi Mendel Rivkin of Chabad of New Orleans. And we are talking, today is Rosh Chodesh, it's the beginning of a new Jewish month. It's the month of Adar, which starts technically on the calendar tomorrow, but we celebrate Rosh Chodesh starting today. We can get into that. And we also started a new, very sartorial-oriented parsha, clothing-oriented, called Parsha Terumah. That's about starting at Exodus chapter 25. And Rabbi Rivkin, should we start with Adar?
Sounds like a plan.
Okay, let me ask you a question. I saw some sign, or maybe it was a meme or a button, "Be happy, it's Adar." This is known as a particularly happy month. I mean, yeah, it's the holiday of Purim, which is a happy one, but not necessarily happier than other holidays we have. But what's particularly happy about Adar?
Well, let me just say before we jump into that this is the luckiest day of the calendar.
Okay.
Because it's not really part of Adar. It gets all the perks of Adar, even though it's really still the 30th day of Shabbat. So you get all the joy, right? All of the specialness associated with the month of Adar, the things that the Talmud talks about, how this month is a strong month for the Jewish people, and the great victory that we had in the holiday of Purim and the great celebration. So the 30th of Shvat gets to, on the coattails of Adar, by virtue of being the first day of Rosh Chodesh, even though it's really part of the month before.
Well, and we don't have a similar thing at the end of Adar with the beginning of Nisan?
Right, because Adar only has 29 days.
Okay.
Unless it's a leap year.
Is there anything particularly happy about Shabbat?
Well, I mean, Shvat is a good month like any month. But,
right, well, Av's not so great.
Right, well, we'll talk about that when we get to Av.
Okay, but we get the best of both worlds,
right,
is what you're saying.
Right.
So tell us more about Adar. Like, should we go to casinos? What should we do? I mean, in the way that you shouldn't in the 3 weeks do certain things. Like during the Omer period, you don't want to get engaged. You don't want to, well, you can always get engaged. Right? You don't want to make certain deals.
So Adar, the Talmud says, when Adar enters, happiness, joy increases, right? Misha nichnas Adar,
smiling. Okay.
Right? So certainly it has, and it also talks about being a good month for the luck of the Jewish people, right? Bori Mazle, it's the mazel of the Jewish people is strong. Mazel is not just luck; it's also the transcendent power of our souls is more dominant during this month, which is why the Talmud recommends if a person has a court case with a Gentile, that they should try to get it pushed to the month of Adar, in contradistinction to the month of Av, right, where it talks about that not being the case. I don't advocate going to casinos during any month, so I don't think that's a good idea. I think it's a nice waste of money. But why is it so happy? Why is Adar such a happy month? Purim transforms an entire month from just being ordinary to being special to being happy, and this is actually something that it says in the Megillah, right? The month on which their mourning was transformed to joy, their darkness was transformed to light. So it's not just the day; it's the whole month that gets transformed because of that. So why is Purim so special? Because Purim was the time that the Jewish people faced annihilation as an entire people. All Jews were subject to the decree of Haman because they were all living under the rule of Ahasuerus, the Persian Empire, and therefore it was the potential for a final solution in one day, kind of like what God forbid was envisioned by the Nazis.
I never envisioned it for one day.
Well, the idea of a blitz, right?
Right.
Of like Kristallnacht was the idea, let's try to do as much damage as we can in one day. And Haman had this idea that in one day we can destroy the entire Jewish people. And the Jewish people were facing this annihilation, and for the first time in their entirety, right, since really it's the Exodus in Egypt. And they displayed such a strong devotion to Hashem. No one even considered changing their religion or resigning their membership of the Jewish people, which would save their life, for an entire year. And because of that strong devotion to Hashem through self-sacrifice that was displayed by the Jewish people, it's the happiest holiday that we have, because it's a total.
Oh, it is the happiest, even though they're happy aspects to Passover.
It is the happiest. It exceeds all biblical holidays in terms of happiness.
I have a question. Being in New Orleans, I was in the French Quarter a couple times a few days ago. And you wonder, it's not our religion, but there are interesting origins to certain Catholic, in particular, customs. This is a very Catholic state. Mardi Gras has its origins in Catholicism. When you think about the fact that it's the same time of year, the costumes, the drinking, and not necessarily some of the more bacchanalian stuff going on, but is there some sort of connection?
So I would say, first of all, they think they're partying because Mardi Gras really it's because of Adar. And it always, it always comes out.
But are you joking or are you serious?
I'm being facetious a little bit.
Uh-huh.
But I would say that Purim and Mardi Gras are not the same. They're entirely different, and I would sum it up in one line.
Uh-huh.
Mardi Gras, people party for the heck of it, and on Purim, we party for the heaven of it. And the idea is that it's a holy joy that comes from a closeness to Hashem, whereas if you think about what Mardi Gras is all about, it's all about getting in your last sin before you have to.
Right, but why the costumes?
I mean, the costume,
which are part of Purim.
I mean, the origin of the costumes with Purim is the idea of the hidden face of Hashem in the Purim story, and the idea that Purim touches the essence of our soul, which the outer appearance of a person can sometimes obscure the essence, the true essence of who they are. Whereas with Mardi Gras, there might be other reasons for why they costume. I'm not a big expert on Mardi Gras.
King cake, which is Mardi Gras, and hamantash are both bad for you if you're on a diet. I will say one other thing though.
You don't choke on a baby in the hamantash.
Right, that's true. Correct me if I'm wrong. And they don't have hamantash vodka yet, but I saw that they have king cake vodka. I saw on some billboard here. That sounds disgusting. But one thing is, I guess in Mardi Gras there is a fertility aspect. Unfortunately, the plants are getting too fertile, and I'm dealing with pollen issues here, which is why I'm leaving town. But the fertility aspect, there is an element of that in Passover, like the spring. Like, don't some people eat eggs for that reason at Passover, like a hard-boiled egg?
I mean, we eat the egg for a different reason.
Oh, I'm wrong. I said, correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, we eat an egg to commemorate one of the offerings that was brought on Pesach, and the reason why we use an egg instead of any other cooked object is actually it's a quasi-mourning expression that we don't have a temple to bring an offering.
So I totally stand corrected. There's no fertility aspect to Purim or Passover.
Unless there's something I don't know of. Now, there's definitely fertility elements to it, because one of the things that Talmud talks about, and this is an interesting thing, is that when the sages would consider a leap year, back in the days of the temple, one of the things they took under consideration was the batch of young lambs that would be born at this time of year that were available for the Pesach offering. And if there wasn't enough, meaning if it was too early in the season, and not enough would be born, then that would be a consideration to add another month to the year, so the Pesach would come.
Oh, so there is a connection even between Purim to some extent. We celebrate Purim when we have a leap month, which is always Adar. That's the second month of Adar when we do it. So
always.
Yeah, which would never fall at the same time probably as Mardi Gras, I would guess. And they calculate it based on Passover.
Yeah. Well, Mardi Gras is calculated based on Easter, which is based on the Sunday and after the full moon.
It's
the spring
Greek Easter, which is, I think, directly correlated to Passover. I don't know. But let's get to the Parsha Terumah.
Let's stick to our religion here. Huh?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm in New Orleans right now. You can't avoid it. I guess we're talking only about the Ark today. And we're in Exodus 25, verses 1 through 16 today, though you can obviously add about the remaining part of the...
I mean, there's something that comes before the Ark, which is a key verse in the Torah, that really, this verse informs our practice, our religion, in every single aspect in the way.
Wait, let me clarify for people. We're not talking about Noah's Ark, the Ark that carried the Torah.
Right, the Ark of the Covenant. The Ark of the Covenant, the one that Indiana Jones is still looking for. Yeah. And but I'm talking about the verse where it says, "Make for me a sanctuary, and I will dwell in their midst." Today. Right? Let
me just find
a couple of verses earlier before the Ark.
They should make it's 25:8.
And we have the famous commentary to this with the question of the sanctuary was a singular entity, right? It was a one place. So why would God say, "I will dwell in them," plural, implying that there may be more than one place to dwell? And our sages comment, and this is cited in the teachings of Hasidus all over the place. It's one of the key teachings that really inspired the teachings of Hasidus. That when Hashem says in them, it doesn't just mean in the physical building of the sanctuary, the tabernacle, or later the temple in Jerusalem, But what it really means is the temple within each and every one of us. Within each and every Jew is where Hashem seeks to dwell, and therefore it is our task to build the sanctuary, not just in a physical sense, a synagogue or a temple, or certainly the Holy Temple in Jerusalem when that time comes, God willing, very soon, but we're talking about building the sanctuary within. And that is key and applicable at every single time, no matter whether we're in exile.
Well, that's funny, because a conversation during Shabbos, Joseph, wave to the camera, come over here and wave for the camera. Dr. Joseph Avidan. I know people talk about making your body a temple, a sanctuary, and I'm not going to have you talk, but there was a great conversation between you and Abraham, who we were staying with over in Metairie for Shabbos, about keeping your body clean and pure with what you eat. And I know you're a vegetarian and you eat fish, and there was a lot of discussion going on about how to keep your body as fit as possible, in part for serving God. So I don't know, I just wanted you to show your face on there, especially for the people in Chabad at the beaches, Ponte Vedra Beach, but I got to give them credit. Anything else in today's reading?
Something funny about that. Okay. You just mentioned I was at, we had
and this is a city where you cannot treat your body as a temple, and there's good kosher food, which might not be that good for your diet too.
Well, 8 years ago, my son was born, the first day of Adar 8 years ago, and we had his bris here at the synagogue, and our neighbor was attending the bris. He's not Jewish, and I offered him a l'chaim. So he said, "Oh, I don't drink. My body is. I regard my body as my temple." So I said, "It's funny because here we only drink in the temple. You say l'chaim in the synagogue all the time. So you can definitely say l'chaim in your temple, and that's actually good for it as long as it's in moderation."
Anything you want to add about today's reading before I do have a question about this area?
Go ahead and ask the question.
Okay. Tulane has a very high Jewish population. You've been serving them for years. Obviously, we know why a school like Yeshiva or Brandeis has such a high Jewish population, and for that matter, University of Florida and SUNY Binghamton. What is the history? Why are there so many Jews at Tulane? Julane, as some people call it.
It is 30% Jewish.
That's very. I mean, the area is not that Jewish. It's a typical average amount.
Tulane is not a state school, so it's drawing kids from all over the country. I can only tell you what the legend is. I haven't seen this confirmed in any academic sources or studies that were done. But from what I've heard, and I heard this from, I can tell you who I heard this from. He's unfortunately passed away last year. Dr. Hyman Tolmas, who was a long-standing member of the admissions board at Tulane Medical School and a graduate of Tulane Medical School, native New Orleanian. He explained to me that there was a time when most of the big schools, the Ivy League schools, had a quota on Jews. And Tulane made a conscious decision to waive that quota and attracted a lot of Jews at that time. It was before World War II.
And New Orleans, by the way, is a city that was, while it was a slave-owning city, diversity really, I mean, they throw around that word a lot, was always a part of New Orleans.
We're talking,
I mean, but even 200 years ago, like French, Spanish, right. Jews, lots of people.
Jews were not welcome in New Orleans. It was a code noir here. Under the French, there were Jews all the Jews had to become secret Jews for a while.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, in the early 1700s. So it wasn't quite such a rosy history.
But after it was American,
right? But sometime between the two world wars, Tulane made a conscious decision to waive that quota, and Jews were attracted to Tulane, and I think it became a loyalty issue, right? Where people wanted to stay loyal to that university that brought them in when others weren't. And then it just became, once it's...
Yeah, I was just wondering, because it's a private university. I mean, I know that a lot of Jews went to state school. Jews from the Northeast went to state schools down south, University of Alabama, much more than the population would expect for a while because of the discrimination up north. One other question. I walked on Audubon Place 2 mornings ago, and I saw the home of Samuel Zemurray, and it's a great book I read, and a lot of friends of mine have read at my recommendation, The Fish That Ate the Whale. He is from a very poor background, didn't go to college, he's a businessman, became the Banana King. I recommend that book, but anything you might want to add about him, not a religious Jew at all.
I mean, it's just it's an inspiring story. I didn't read the book, but I do know the history of Shakita.
His house is now the president of Tulane's home, right?
Right.
Anything you might add to his legend?
I mean, I could tell you that home is used for a lot of Jewish occasions.
Oh, it is.
The president of Tulane routinely hosts Jewish kids from Tulane, and for that matter, other Jewish events because of that association. And
he has no Jewish descendants, though, right? He married
I
non-Jewish.
don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
But there's also some other Jewish neighbors on Audubon Place.
I'm sure. Nice homes.
So, yeah.
Anything else about Jews in this part of New Orleans you want to add?
It's definitely, I would say, in terms of Jewish population of New Orleans, uptown New Orleans is, and along with Metairie, are the two areas of concentration of the Jewish population. Ironically, or not so ironically, that's where the two Chabads are located. And we've been here since 1975, so over 40 years, and going strong. Your
father is the Rebbe's first emissary, who I interviewed 2 days ago, to the New Orleans area. Let me ask, I know there's been some growth in the area in Biloxi that's part of this whole organization. You just put another rabbi, Rabbi Kazin, who appeared on my video on Friday, and Rabbi Lipsker is here to help with Tulane stuff. Anything else going on? Are there plans to expand to like Shreveport, Alexandria in future years, or Lafayette?
We always have our antennas up to see whether that's a possibility. There's no immediate plan for that. Some of those communities that you mentioned are really small and kind of hard to envision there being a permanent Chabad presence. Shreveport is the one that I would say is most under consideration.
Which is probably closer to Dallas than it is to here anyway, right?
Yep. 6 hours from here, 2.5 hours from Dallas.
Right, but it would be part of Chabad of Louisiana, I guess.
Yeah. And of course, and you mentioned Biloxi. They've been there for 2 years now, 2.5 years, and they just actually got a place.
They did.
That they're
I've been there.
Yeah.
How far?
They finally got a place on Pass Road in Biloxi.
Pass Road is.
It's
is that the main US 90?
No, it's the main street that runs through Biloxi and Gulfport. Not the Highway 90, but the street that.
Okay, so that's not that far from the rabbi's home, or.
Well, he just moved.
Oh, he moved already.
And much closer to where their new place is. It's on Pass Road. And they're going to be opening up shortly. They're doing renovations now, and very excited. Very excited, yeah.
And anything else going on about? I know there's a new waffles. I'm going to be checking out. Can you just tell us about kosher in New Orleans and what tourists might need to know? This is a big tourist city.
Well, if you're a tourist, go to chabadneworleans.com/tourist, because that's where all your information that you need. There are 3 kosher restaurants under the LKC, which is the Louisiana Kashrut Committee, run by Rabbi Nemes of Chabad of Metairie, and that is Kosher Cajun, Casablanca, and Waffles. Waffles is opening up another branch next week.
Up here, right?
No, the one here has been here for a couple of years now. They're opening another branch in Metairie.
Yeah.
And who knows what the future brings.
Maybe something in the quarter?
Perhaps.
We'll see.
I would say that's definitely the next need. Whether the business people who run these restaurants see it that way, we'll find out.
A lot of competition there, so... Orthodox observant Jews aren't necessarily drawn to the French Quarter for some obvious reasons.
But they are drawn to the convention center for business.
Oh, that's right.
Every single week. So there's definitely, I believe, a market for it.
Catering's a big part of the restaurants here.
And tourist business.
Yeah.
There are conventions in this town every week. And
they deliver.
Every convention, they do deliver, but how convenient would it be to just walk to St. Charles and Poitras for a sandwich, for lunch, or take.
And that's only like a mile from the quarter, not even
a couple blocks.
So that would be pretty good. All right, thank you for your time today.
Have a good one. Happy Rosh Chodesh.
Happy Rosh Chodesh.
Happy Adar.
Thank you.